I'm going to bring in Constantine now. Oh, there he is.
Hey, what's up, Abe?
How are you, sir?
I'm pretty good. Pretty good. Thanks for asking.
I saw that you've had your second cup of coffee already, and it's
Well,
early.
we're working for a German company and living in California. You get pretty used to getting up early and sitting on calls, I'd say.
That's true. That's true. Well,
Yeah.
we really appreciate you getting up early, man, and talking to the people. We've got 251 people in here right now, and I'm sure more will be joining once they wake up on the West Coast. But
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Excited.
yeah, yeah, man. Listen, we're in some really bizarre, fucked up ass times right now. People are dying left and right from a crazy ass virus that's spreading all across the world, and there's no one accountable for this shit. So we're living in some weird stuff. There's a lot of injustice going on, and there's so many companies that I've seen that has just been so like right on top of it when it comes to kind of like the state that we're in right now. And so you guys have been doing some great stuff. But first, before we get into some of the stuff you guys are doing on the COVID relief side and some of the campaigns and charity initiatives that you guys have been doing, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our community. Let the people know who you are and what you do.
Sure thing. Sure thing. Yeah, my name is Constantine. I've been working for Native Instruments for 10 years, actually, as of this month. So we can celebrate a decade of my life with Native Instruments this month. Actually, Abe and myself actually go way back. I remember, and we should get into this at some point. But when BeatStars was in its infancy, I'd say,
Yeah.
and I was just starting at Native, we did a lot of cool things together in the kind of remix competition space. Enabling creators and providing gear to them. So fond memories there, but we go, I would say, back like 10 years as well.
Well, I used to stalk you. I used to hound you. I used
Yeah.
to anywhere Native Instruments would be. Listen to this, guys. When I was first starting BeatStars and we were just babies in the game, wherever Constantine would be in America in like whatever conference or whatever educational thing, I'd show up. I'd come down to LA. I'd come to wherever he's at, and like, yo, Constantine, you got to hear about this beat thing. You got to hear about this beat thing. I was pitching the story to him back then, and he's always been one of the guys that was like, hey, that's pretty fucking cool, man. That's pretty fucking cool. And so he's always been a supporter, and has always shown love to us. So man, we appreciate you.
I think, yeah, absolutely. But I think it's also the kind of persistence and passion, right? That is so crucial to whatever you do. And I think, like, for me personally, speaking a little bit about my career, I used to work in the more traditional space in the music industry, work for a big tour promoter, record label. I was a journalist at a time working for German MTV. And also some magazines in Germany, and ended up on the creator side and found that to be a space that was really interesting to me because it combined my passion for music production, DJing, and technology with the kind of music side, the stories of creators and what they do with products and gear. And that's also the space that I've been in at Native Instruments. I was never the guy that was on the side of making the actual products happen because I'm not smart enough to code DSP and do some amazing stuff that our tech teams do. But I've always been in that space at Native where I was in between the creator community and the technology that we provide, right? And that's been extremely exciting. I've been extremely grateful for the company to allow me to move to the US about 7 years ago, where I've lived since then, and work with all of our teams to make some cool stuff happen. So yeah, that's kind of my career in a nutshell.
Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing that. You come from Germany, and Berlin specifically, right? Are you from Berlin
I'm
or from?
not, I'm
Well,
not from Berlin, but I lived there for a long time, for sure.
okay, but like I think a lot of people don't know, especially here in the States, a lot of people don't know the most innovative software, hardware that has like progressed the music creator space for the longest time has come from this place, this one city, Berlin. And it's really, really weird where not weird, but it's like you kind of like, oh, hold on, why did it, why did all of that innovation start there? Why did it continue on, and why were massive businesses built out of just that city. So I'd love to hear like, because I don't know myself. I'd love to hear like, is there any like backstory to why Berlin was such a like innovative and pioneering place for music creation? Do you know anything?
Yeah, so, something magic in the water or
Yeah,
something.
maybe.
No, I think it's interesting because not just Berlin. I think Germany has a real history in music technology. So the company eMagic in the 90s
Yeah.
that was purchased by Apple in the early 2000s, I believe, was a foundation for Logic, essentially.
Right.
That started out of Hamburg. There's obviously Cubase in Hamburg. I don't know how many Cubase users you have on BeatStars, but I certainly know some high-profile people that
Yeah.
use Cubase today. And then in Berlin, you have kind of founded at the same time, around the same time, Ableton obviously is a major DAW also in hip hop and pop, as well as electronic music and native. And one maybe interesting anecdote that I can share is that the original founders of Ableton used to also work at Native Instruments. So Native Instruments was founded in '96, kind of in this time when there was a lot of sense of opportunity, I think, in Berlin, because the wall had just come down a couple of years earlier. People were doing crazy raves and techno parties in the abandoned buildings in Berlin that were now there. There was a sense of like renewal and freedom, and anything's possible. At the same time, you have a major trend like the internet and personal computers becoming so much more powerful, and all that kind of converged into people like the founder of Native, Stefan Schmidt, who was frustrated with the possibilities of big hardware synthesizers and wanted to do something in the computer and recognize that potential.
Right.
And he came up with what is still a foundation for a lot of our products today, this product called Generator, which is the foundation for Reactor, which is like a modular software synthesizer. And some of the people that were part of the 6 founders at Native, at some point they were like, well, we want to do something different. We want to build something for the live electronic musician, and we want to make a kind of sequencer thing, and they went to found Ableton. So there's always been that extremely close connection between the two companies, and certainly, on a much smaller scale than maybe in Silicon Valley that you have with an Apple and Google, there's lots of movement between the companies, right? So people move from Ableton to Native and vice versa, and it's a super cool exchange.
Yeah, super interesting, man. Super interesting. And when you guys, I guess in Germany, when software was really kicking off and hardware was really kicking off, like you said, they were enabling DJs to also perform their original production. And I think, Germany just being such a huge hub for EDM and just for the electronic music scene in general, man, for a long time, right? For a long time.
Yeah.
And like I'm talking like when I was a kid, 90s, like early 90s, so that was a huge movement for so long, and still is.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think Germany is so influenced culturally by the US, and on the electronic music side, there's always been this interchange between, I think, some of the music styles that weren't even as celebrated in the US as they were in Germany. For example, Detroit techno, right? I think it was a pretty underground movement in the US in the kind of late 80s, early 90s, but in Berlin's techno scene, it was huge. Remember all these guys that would come from Detroit would play to like ravers, huge audiences, when maybe back in Detroit they didn't have the same thing, right? So there's always been that exchange. I think the same is definitely true for hip hop. Like hip hop is such a big scene in Germany. I think right now I would say it's bigger than ever in terms of the artists that are coming out of Germany. It's always obviously restricted because of the language, but it's a huge music market. You have over 80 million people living in Germany. Plus you've got Austria and Switzerland, which are smaller countries, but they also speak the language. It's super cool to see. I think that people find their own voice in that market as well.
First, I got to shout out my guys in Germany, the Crates, who have been absolutely killing it in the hip hop space. Actually, like really pioneering the hip hop production out there for so long, man. They're amazing. They're amazing guys.
How did you first meet them, actually?
How did I first meet them? I think I was doing a talk at like SAE. Remember SAE?
Yeah.
And they were doing a panel, and that's when they had Tim from the Crates join one day, and we were both talking to a bunch of the kids there, and it was like a listening session, listening to beats in the studio, and me and him were listening to beats, and that's when I first met him. I'm like, oh shit, this is like maybe 2007, maybe 2006, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, so listen, we've established Germany as this place where music innovation creation really took it to a whole new level. Native Instruments has played such a big role in that, and you're on the marketing side of of course. So you're telling the stories of these products. You're really diving in. But man, I like to. Before we even get into products, man, I really want, because you said you started out as a DJ, you were on the promotional side. You were a creator first, man. You're a creator first, and so was native products part of when you were a creator? Were native products part of your workflow? Was it part of your workflow? And is that how kind of you fell in love with like the music tech and software space?
Yeah. I think I need to rewind a little bit further. I kind of grew up between Germany and the UK, so I lived in London for a while. That's a lot where my musical influence at an early age
Yeah.
was shaped between like break beats and drum and bass and house music.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was really into hip hop as well. So I had a hip hop group, and we had all different kinds of languages that we would rap in and make beats on, like stuff like Magix was like the software I think that we used, like late 90s, early 2000s. Not the greatest output, but when I moved to Berlin, I really got into DJing. So that was around 2005. And I was mostly DJing a lot of house music at the time, and I was buying records, but I quickly realized that buying records when you don't have that much money is a pretty expensive thing. So I did a couple of things. I started working for a music magazine, so I got free records that I would review, which was a great way to get vinyl. And the other thing that I did was get Tractor, right? So me and my DJ friend at the time, we actually split the Tractor Pro, Tractor Scratch Pro, I think it was called at the time, where you got the connector piece, the audio aid that you would connect in the club, which was always a bit of an effort at the time, connected to the turntables, and then you would play off your laptop, and you can play MP3s that you get as promos, or Beatport obviously was a big source at the time as well. So I was a Tractor user at the time, and using Tractor every weekend in the clubs, right? So playing Friday, Saturday, using Tractor all the time. And actually, through being a customer, there was a newsletter that was sent while I was working for a record label at the time that was like, hey, we're looking for somebody to do PR for Native. And remember, Native at the time, even though they had been in the game for 14 years, they were still only a company of maybe 150 people. Big, but not as big as it is today.
Right.
So I applied through that newsletter, through being a user essentially, right? And yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. I already knew the product, and it was an easy transition.
Man, that's amazing. That's amazing because at BeatStars we're doing the same with our creators. Like some of our best employees at BeatStars are users of the platform, and ambassadors, and just like just genuine people that just are really in the whole beat licensing world and the music creator world, man. And it's so beautiful to bring voices of our creators into our space, because it keeps the mission and who we serve and who we need to just like continue working for, right? It keeps it very clear. And so I love, yep.
Yeah, and I think the same is true for like Native. Like at the core, the company was early on like pretty nerdy. Let's face it, making like a soft modular software synthesizer. I mean, there's a certain audience for that, right? But these kinds of people that helped us, figure out what that product could be used for, that put it to like a creative use. Those were the people that helped us really also figure out how to do certain things. And that community has always been crucial. I think one of the pieces from that time that we still have and is still very active is a user library of people that make products in Reactor and give them out to the community for free, right? You can go on nativeInstruments.com, it's in the community section, and download these crazy products that people have created in their own spare time, just to share them with the community for cloud, right? Often just to show like, look what I've done. I've created this kind of crazy thing.
Right.
And a lot of the people that have been brought on to Native, like, in interviews, that when we interview people for marketing roles, like hearing them speak passionately about the brand, like that's always a really great thing, right? Because they know and understand what we're doing. Yeah,
for sure. And I bet that from a marketing perspective, that helps you do your job even better now, because, but that's the one thing that you've always kind of done. I've always seen you really touch the people. Creating events, having your users come in, creating networking events, creating studio sessions, creating content, creating all these things. You've always like as a marketer or as an executive in a company, it's always great to see higher level executives touching and talking to the people, right? Really hearing their stories, really understanding, their needs and really serving them. And you guys have like constantly with every product that you release has served that community in great ways. And there's really hasn't been many misses, when you really think about it from a native product side.
Yeah, I could definitely. I think we talk a lot about the misses much more maybe than outside of the company. Obviously, that not everything that you do is going to land.
Oh, for sure,
I think one of the really, this obviously as an entrepreneur yourself, Abe, but I think one of the important things is, you can't take the support of the community for granted, right? It's not like you're going to come out there and say, we've got this amazing new thing, we think it's great, like here it is, right? You've got to build relationships with people and really kind of get their feedback. I think that's also one of the crucial things for us. At some point in the last couple of years, we started sometimes to rely a bit too much maybe on, let's say, just data, right? And I think data is super, super important. I mean, it's essential in driving the business and making decisions, but you need to pair it up with qualitative feedback from the people that use your products, because our products are not, let's say, an arbitrary, software that somebody's using in like finance or insurance industry. It's something that people use to create something that's really, really emotional and really personal to them, because they're expressing themselves through the products. It's like a guitar, right? Or like any kind of instruments that you play. So it's really important to speak to people early on when you're developing stuff, to kind of even little things like, where should this button sit? Is it the right kind of placement for it? Does that angle of the screen on the hardware make sense for you, or doesn't it make sense for you, right? And I think that's how you build those relationships. If people then see that you're listening to them, that you're taking the feedback into account. And I think one of the hardest things for us as a company has been to really keep that going on the scale that we're at right now, because we have so many different products. So we can't support everything all the time. We need to really pick our battles. So that's a tough thing as a marketer that's focused on community, because you want to work with everyone, but you have to sometimes choose. And but I think it's essential to get anything out to the market that really is going to work and hit the nail.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, man. When you said you can't really expect your customer base to just embrace everything you do, just really go out there and never really expect it. So you're proving yourself as a company, proving yourself as a product developer, and creating these things that actually really matter. That's amazing. That keeps people in line. That keeps our company, it keeps companies in line, making sure they don't lose focus of the reason why they're in the business they're in.
Yeah, 100%.
So. We do a lot of that. We do a lot. It's huge. But, and I love when the way that you're talking about the feedback and marketing. Like, we have a bunch of artists and we have a bunch of producers listening in right now, right? We have like all of these music creators. We have songwriters. And I personally don't think I see enough of our entrepreneurs on BeatStars asking for feedback from their customers. Like, I don't see a lot of like, hey, thanks for buying this beat, but I'll give you 50% off your next purchase if you fill out this short survey giving me some feedback about my product or my workflow or my website design, or and I think when you talk about these things, like these concepts don't just live with us, the big companies, right? These concepts are not just successful and created just for us. And the way that we're helping to kind of change the narrative of the creator today, like, you're not just a creator, you're an entrepreneur, you're a marketer, you're everything. So when you brought that up, naturally, it makes a lot of sense, and I hope a lot of our creators take that and start applying that into their business flow. But what are some other habits? Because you don't get to where you are, Con, like running global marketing for this massive music company. You don't get to that position and hold on to it for such a long time and be in the industry for such a long time without establishing some really consistent habits that are beneficial for you in your career, in your day-to-day life, right? Mm-hmm. And I think those things as a marketer also, apply to all of our creators, and they need to adopt those things. So give me a couple things that you really live by, that you've
Yeah.
actually lived by, or you're.
Yeah, totally. I think they are super universal, to be honest. I don't think they're specific to being in marketing or being a beat maker, a songwriter, or any kind of anything that you want to achieve. I think the first thing for me is constantly to have an open mind and learn. I never assume that I know everything or anything really. So I think reading for me is definitely a big aspect. That could be books on like behavior and psychology is something that I'm really interested in, but also just staying on top of the industry in terms of seeing what's going on and just having a kind of daily news feed of stuff that affects you or could open your mind to opportunity. Discipline has been something that's become extremely important for me, because I think also the situation I'm in, where I manage teams not just in LA but also in Berlin, in our Asian offices and our European offices. So I need to be extremely disciplined with myself to get up in the morning, like have 4 or 5, sometimes 6 hours of consecutive meetings, and not lose my mind over that, right? Because especially I think in this time where you can't travel, you can't have personal interaction with people. We are very grateful that we have the jobs that we have and that we are able to continue them from home. At the same time, it does take, a toll on your kind of mental well-being. So that's something that should be part of your discipline and your routine, that you really take care of that. For me, that's exercise, just to take my mind off things and getting rid of any negative things in my life that maybe I've used as crutches before, like smoking, for example, is something that I used to navigate to and have stopped
Same here.
since. I think that's it for me. For me, it's curiosity and wanting to learn, and it's discipline. Those are the two kind of big pillars for me.
Cool. Those are great lifestyle habits. I think exercise is for sure a huge factor, especially in your creative process, man. If you don't have a clear brain, your body is not functioning optimally. You can't be that creative. You can't tap into different pockets of your brain that can actually change your life. But so, I think you've talked about some fundamental lifestyle things. Are there any tools that you cannot live without in your marketing workflow, that maybe you and your team as well, that maybe you think like, okay, wow, this tool has really helped me streamline all the things I'm working on? Is there anything that maybe that can apply to our users in some way that you use on a day-to-day?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest ones for us is just having a really good communication tool. For us at Slack, we use it daily. It's super helpful. I think it's helpful if you have any team of any size, to be honest. For us as a company of 450 people, it's quite sophisticated in terms of how we use it, in terms of having different channels, private channels, public channels, just for information flow. It's helped so much. In terms of kind of managing projects, one of the tools that we don't use that much anymore, but I always thought it was a great tool, is Trello. It's free. It's super simple to kind of structure your own to-do list, to bucket things under different projects. If you are, trying to succeed, you need to look at different aspects, I think, of the business that you're in. So like being able to split things up and really have a clear look at it, put deadlines to it, color code it. This helped me a lot. Funny enough, I think in the last couple of months, I've been reverting back to kind of like the old school writing style. So
Nice.
I do write a lot in terms of meeting notes, in terms of to-do lists, just because I think if you write something with your hand, it helps you remember it much better. So that's a tool that I've recently rediscovered. And the other tool that I really love to plug it is this product called Things. I think it's actually also a German company. It's a cross-platform to-do list tool. You can have it on your iPhone, iPad, as well as desktop. It's a one-time purchase, so no subscription, which I kind of like for this tool. And it's super, super helpful, just a simple to-do list to keep track of things.
Cool, man. Yeah, I know. We're not trying to like plug all these products, but at the same time, I use a various amount of tools that get me through the day too. So
what is something that you use at BeatStars to keep the kind of teams on track and everything going?
We use of course Slack, Monday, Jira, Trello.
Yeah.
We've used Asana in the past. We've used a
Yeah.
ton of shit, man. And
Would you say it's like it's about because it's similar to native? I could have mentioned like Asana and all these things, but would you say it's about the tool or like how you use it, or
it's
because
the people, man. It's the people. It's the people. It's the people. I don't think it's so much of the tool. I think that if you have the right team, the right leadership, I think people can adopt any tool and use it. It's just good to have any project management tool, to be honest with you, like that just helps you manage your workflow, especially for our creators when you're thinking about like creating a social media schedule or creating all these things in your calendar and making sure to remind you to do certain things. And keeping you kind of accountable for your work. If you
yeah.
don't organize your time and you don't get nothing done and nothing happens in your career, who's it on, buddy? You know what I
Exactly. I think
mean? So
one of the things that I'm always in some ways envious about is I think as somebody that is just running the business for yourself or as a small team, I think there's so much, and you have kind of a clean slate. There's
yeah,
so much choice of great marketing tools out there
yeah,
today that you can, from Mailchimp to anything that you can like automate so well. And for native, we have so many customers and we have such a legacy of users and tools that for us sometimes it's harder actually to do things as flexibly. But one of the things that will definitely help you and has helped us a lot is automating as many things as possible. So you can really focus on what really matters, which is the message that you're trying to send out and not so much the kind of tactical stuff around it.
And,
Yeah.
and our creators are always adopting all the automation tools that we add to like ProPage, all these integrations, for email marketing, SMS marketing, all these things. So it's great, man. It's great. It's just adding another one that's kind of not just on your technology. You're using it offline to manage your life too. So,
Yeah.
so man, listen, Native's got some iconic products. The contact library that's been there forever. Of course, you talked about. We didn't really talk about Machine a little bit, but honestly, I think Machine because that's when me and you kind of like really started
Yeah.
kicking it. It was when Machine really started to take off. And I love the rollout, like everything from like the product images of Machine, everything from, adding elements of color into the product, making it a little bit more, vibrant and making it really sturdy, right? And making it really sturdy. And I was able to know that just from the marketing material, right? I was able
Yeah.
to learn that and trust that just from the marketing material, not even looking at the product. And I knew it was a great product, right? And so when you approach marketing these products, man, when you approach marketing these products and you guys start thinking about the marketing process, right? How first of all, like how long does some of these campaigns actually like before it even actually has its launch day?
Yeah.
What I'm sure there's sometimes maybe even a year of preparation, 6 months of preparation. Like how much preparation and how much teamwork did you have to, and how many people did you have to manage? Like that was a big campaign. Tell me a little bit about that campaign, some of the ins and outs that people don't know about. Maybe like even if there was some hardship and some struggle throughout the whole thing, people learn from
Yeah.
mistakes. So tell me a little bit about that campaign. That was the most. I don't know. That was a campaign that really got me.
I think what you're talking about specifically was maybe Machine Studio.
Studio.
Yeah, in 2013, which was like the bigger machine that came out that made the workflow easier and was kind of like the signature studio piece at the time.
Yeah.
But maybe going back to the machine kind of 1.0, if you want, those things are like such conceptual products that like for us to make Machine in the first place was first of all like somebody that had a great idea that was taking the workflow of the MPC into digital realm and opening up the possibilities that could happen in that space. So that's a long process. And then designing it, then setting up, how do we make hardware? Because we weren't really a hardware company at the time. We were making some hardware, but that means, finding like the right partners to work with in Asia on tooling. That means like, making screens for the first time, making sure that the pads feel right. There's so many details to that. So it's a long process. And specifically with something like Machine Studio, where the product Machine was already somewhat established in the market by this point. So we had some really amazing early adopters. Thinking of people like Shay Pope from the Kanye camp, or Ninth Wonder. Obviously, we just did a video with last year, finally kind of to celebrate his legacy. And he's made so many iconic beats on Machine. It's ridiculous, really. So we already had this, I think, as a basis. We're really thinking about, how do we differentiate this product in the market? That's always, I think, the first question, both from our own products that we have as well as from the competition that's out there. So that's then thinking about what are the key messages that we want to put forward. And you want to make it simple, right? You want to make it relatively easy to understand, but you want to have a layer of information below that the people that really want to dig deeper, that maybe are like intrigued by the cool video that we've made that makes this thing look amazing, which I think at the time was also a performance video with Jeremy Ellis, who's an amazing finger drummer from California, who's played with the Roots, and he did like an insane performance on this thing. But okay, you've watched that video, you're like, what the hell is this? It's amazing. And then you want to read all the details. So you need to make sure that information is all there, because buying a product for $1,000 as a music producer that has never used that specific style of product of a machine, you're making a lot of decisions. You're spending $1,000, right, which is a lot of money for you if you're starting out as a beat maker. I mean, we could talk about how music production has changed 7 years later as well. But at the time, I think that there was, you were thinking about investing that kind of money. You want to make the right decision. So you're going to Guitar Center to check out the product, right? You might go to a Native Instruments event to check out the product and really kind of feel it. You got to speak to your friends about it. So you need to make sure that the whole kind of marketing that is not driven by yourself, but that is really by others. And that's really where decision-making in my mind comes from, is what does the community say about the stuff that you're making, right? You can say like, this is amazing. You can describe what the product does, but ultimately you want to see somebody use it. You want to kind of hear from others that this is helping them solve a problem or making their music better or their output better. And that's what you want to achieve. And that's a longer process, right? That means seeding the product early with creators, getting their feedback. One of the things we do today a lot is work with the YouTube creator community of educators, right? There's amazing people out there that are doing really great job at educating on music production. And we started working with them maybe 2-3 years ago in a more kind of coordinated fashion, where they will get products early. We invited them, I think, last year to Berlin to do what we called the creator base. We had, I think, 25 creators there from all over the world that just, we cooked with them, we hung out with them, we showed them the newest gear, and they've become advocates for the product. And I think, it's much more authentic to hear from somebody that you trust and follow on YouTube and that you might even like. I think one of the things we often talk about, should we make an educational video with one of our product specialists? Because not everybody wants to listen to a guy with a German accent talk about some features, but they might want to listen to somebody that speaks to them on YouTube. And that's what we just try to encourage, just to get the word out there as coordinated and authentically as possible. Because I think that's ultimately where the decision to purchase a product is made. Amazing.
I think you touched on a couple really, really important processes in the product marketing flow. The first one was you were creating really sexy content, videos, right? Videos of users using the product in the wild, right? And doing it with high quality content, when really at a time, not a lot of people were really creating that kind of like high quality content around a music technology product. It was always, the marketing was always really boring, like the marketing was always
technical,
really, yeah, too technical, just too damn technical. And that's what never actually really brought me in as a creator, like I never felt attached to, I never felt like as a young creator, I never felt attached to any music technology brand. I never felt, I don't know, I didn't feel it.
Yeah, I think
until the Machine Studio came out.
Yeah,
right? And so
I think it's cool because I think the experience of like, I think you can talk about segmentation of your audience and talk about, we're speaking to music producers, they will understand,
Right.
But a music producer is also somebody that's consuming a ton of slick content through other channels from other brands that are not in the music tech space, right? So I think you need to try to be on that level. because that experience is it's gonna feel somewhat similar to them, right?
Yeah.
The same goes for like anything e-commerce related. Anything of your experience with a brand should feel, high end. And I think it's no surprise that we have such amazing other brands in the space now, like Splice or Output or other people that are doing an amazing job, I think, of how they market their products in an authentic way and having an engaging conversation with the audience rather than just presenting like, here's the product, it has these and these features. That's just not a conversation, right? You wouldn't tell your friend about it that way either. So why would you use
100%,
Instagram that way?
100%. Yeah. And I think this all applies to our creators. I hope you guys are listening. Like posting a boring beat video on YouTube, really like, or posting a boring beat video like without your human face involved, or someone else with someone else's face involved, like it's not, people just won't they just won't relate to it. So but then you also talked about like product placement within distribution of other channels, other people that are relatable in your community, right? Relatable, like creating relatable content, or that you can easily plug into their audience, because their audience speaks the same language as your current customers, right? Just kind of like diversifying who to talk to, giving early access to your products to those folks, inviting those folks into even a bigger conversation in the headquarters in Berlin, and like really creating this group of folks that will advise the company and inspire you guys to create better products too. So I think when producers and artists, when you're thinking about, and I posted something the other day where I said, one beat is like its own microeconomy. It's used in, it's a product, man. It's a product, and it can be positioned and used in so many different ways. So the same way that Constantine's talking about having product placement in these influencer videos on YouTube, producers and artists can be approaching bigger channels on YouTube as well for including their music in those products, really hitting up those creators and, curating a sound for them in a sense, So
funny enough, you have like, such a big community. Some of the people that we work with, forget the guy's name just now, the German creator. He's super funny on YouTube. I'll share it maybe later in the summit. I'll send it to you so you can share in the chat. But
Origami?
No, that's not his name. I'll find it.
A lot of dope German producers on BeatStars. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I can imagine. I see them. But this guy is like posting pretty much exclusively like beat reaction videos, right? So he listens, he like takes them apart, and that's an insane marketing opportunity, I think, for a lot of producers, right?
Yeah.
To be part of that.
Yeah, and and then just like you're saying, man, just offering some unique things to your customers, making sure your existing customers are also getting kind of a unique experience, or at least offering them a unique experience, to just build a stronger bond with you. So you're you've also I guess the producers on BeatStars, the majority of them are not DJs, I would say, right? They're not like the performing producers, which you guys talk to that audience a lot. You guys are creating tools and software really tailored for them. I've always wished for, that's why we call the company BeatStars. I always wished for our producer community to embrace their music and the creation of their products in a bigger commercial way, right? I always wanted our community to never leave a stone unturned. Like if there's an audience for people that would love to see you perform your music live, I really think I'm talking to producers out there. You should venture into finding software that like Native Instruments creates that helps you take your production workflow into the DJ space and makes it easy for you, and really explore that, because there's nothing like performing and connecting with people, man. There's nothing like it on earth. It's the most probably addictive drug that you ever find, right? So you've talked to that community of producers that are also I would love for you to tell our community of producers what kind of opportunity is it really? I mean, right now we're all stuck at home, but at some point, well, even with virtual sets too, like what opportunity is out there for the producers that are out there that also want to be the performing artist as a DJ?
Yeah.
What advice do you have for those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of we don't discriminate. First of all, I think in terms of the audience, we have such a diverse group of people, in terms of genre, in terms of how people, produce for artists, produce for themselves, use our tools for songwriting, use our tools for composing scores for movies or Spotify podcasts or whatever it might be. So it's really quite a broad thing that actually tends to move with the trends a little bit in terms of where the audience is sitting at. But you're certainly right. I think also where the company started, just also because we had a strong focus on DJ for a long time, the Tractor, that we have this type of user that's just kind of almost DJ first, producer second. And I think we've seen that shift over the last decade for sure, going more in the other direction, where just being a DJ, like how it used to be, where you were maybe just like the most amazing turntablist DJ, throwing parties every weekend, that has kind of shifted away. That people realized, in order to be a successful DJ, I need to also be a successful producer, right? So I don't think you can have one or the other right now anymore, as you maybe could have in the mid 2000s. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. There's people that do an amazing job, but it's definitely gotten a bit smaller, I think, in terms of percentage. One thing that works really well for our channels is, people that really perform their productions. So, and I'm not even talking about going out into the world and doing live events, which, as you say, right now, that's a whole nother conversation that is just very sad, I think, for the music community. Yeah. But people have adopted doing live sets, and Twitch is obviously blowing up with DJ sets and other places. But one of the things that our community finds really interesting, and those videos always perform the best, is people that use a machine or a keyboard or whatever it might be to do routines of their own beats. There's this artist called Austin Mills, I don't know if you're familiar with him, who is doing insane kind of sample flip beats that he's produced and performing them on a machine in cool settings. He has this thing where he does one beat a week on Instagram, and he's got 350,000 followers now, if not more. He's been booked to play events for, I think he was doing something for Beyonce, a private event, just through building his audience of performing these amazing sample flip beats that he's made. He's extremely musical, and we've featured him on our channels a lot because he's using Machina, and our audience loves it. So I think there are really cool ways of how you can, I think, position yourself more than just, let's say you're the producer that's making beats in your studio, and doing a great job at maybe selling them on BeatStars and promoting yourself there. But if you use, I think, creative ways like performance to promote what you're doing as a beat maker, I think that's always going to set you apart from the rest.
Yeah, I think the definition of DJ has kind of changed, huh?
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah.
Or it needs to be given maybe an alternative. I think the beat makers that perform like that, without the traditional DJ experience, there should be a new term for those guys, because I think there needs to be a segment in our community that identifies with that, and so when they see that movement, or they see that kind of that title, that job title, as a kind of how we all talk about producers and beat makers and recording artists, everyone kind of has a title. I think there needs to be another title for this, because there's so much opportunity for especially our creators, who are super talented, who are very creative people that could create some cool, unique stuff that could be streamed on social media.
For sure. I think it always helps if you have a definition of what that is. So I think that's really cool. I think one of the things I always loved about after moving to America, about the American way of doing this, is you find so many creators that do so many different things. That are DJs, that are producers, that are performers, and just have a great personality. Are thinking less in these silos, but are just doing whatever feels right for them, right? And I think that's always awesome. I think at some point you need to decide what you want to be to the outside. That's more of a branding question, but don't lose that thing where you do all these amazing things at once. I think it's just amazing.
Yeah, man. I'd love to, because you're someone probably spending more time in the woods than me in regarding to like studying how the music creator is changing and evolving, right? So,
Yeah, yeah,
I learn a lot. I learn a lot from you guys. I learn a lot from you. We see it from more of like a commercialization, monetization standpoint. Kind of, we see the end composition, and so we know that you guys and so many other companies are doing the creation stuff so well, and there's so many great tutorials on how to become a better producer on YouTube with so many great channels. That's really so we've really really been laser focused around what we do. But I'd love to hear from you, like regarding like creator trends. Are you seeing any other technology disruptions that are happening where now creators are more are not succeeding, but they're actually like they're seeing that there's a visible shift in how people are making music. Is mobile one of those things? Is mobile kind of like
yeah.
changing for the
Yeah.
younger creator?
I think it's interesting because I think music technology, as innovative as it always has been, is always a pretty slow industry to adopt new technology. And I think that has a lot to do with the complexity of the products. And I think it has a lot to do with the traditionalist view of a lot of music producers. Music at the end of the day is something that you could use just an instrument that is 200 years old and make something that's still going to resonate today, like be it like on a piano or guitar or whatever. So I think those are two factors that generally make the music technology industry move rather slowly. I think and that's, I think, one of the reasons why mobile, at least in my view, hasn't really been dominating what music producers do. I think there's a lot of great products on mobile, and we also have some products that work really well. But in terms of finishing a track, like really getting something out there, there is still the belief that you need to do this on a device that can power that and has all the instruments on it. I think it's also lack of availability of tools on mobile at this point. I think if we see iOS and macOS merging more and more in the future, which is already happening, right, with iPad Pro and like feature sets merging a lot.
I mean, my kids, 10 and 9 and 7. I try to teach them, desktop music making, and we've had a couple sessions, and I showed them how to use the software, but they always go back to their iPad to create music. That's their first. So I think.
And I think it's also, I think that's super good perspective. Maybe I'm also talking about
it's age. I think it's age too. I think it's age.
But I think it's also distribution, right? If you think about what you're making that music for today, and you're thinking about making that track for a TikTok video,
right.
It's different because you're exporting it straight from there. You're in that system. You're not thinking about this needs to go to like a distribution for being put on a physical device or being given to streaming service or this, that, and the other, or being mastered through this. So I think. Absolutely. I think if we were talking about like 10 years in the future, I think we'd see a very different landscape than we see today. I think what we see more so is like, I think loops and samples have become a more, I think especially kind of within hip hop and pop, like a thing that's been much more adopted than it was before. I still joined Native Instruments where people were discussing if presets are cheating, right? I don't think anybody's having the discussion of a synthesizer cheating right now. People take, and I kind of love it. I think the hip hop that I grew up with was also all about discovering things and taking them and chopping them up and recontextualizing them. And that's what's happening again today. You take a loop from somewhere, you make it your own, and you make a track out of it. So
talk about that a little bit, because Native has always been in the sound space with virtual instruments and sound software, and now you guys have launched recently sounds.com, and you're saying that people are loving being able to take and choose and take these things, but we all need like a real credible source to be able to take and use, right? And so you guys are along with some other companies. You guys are because we've sold sound kits too since like 2009, but there's always been just packaged as kits, right? It wasn't about the individual sound, and I think the flexibility for a creator to pick and choose what they want to use and preview them, I think is great. And so you guys are doing an awesome job doing that. Like what inspired that? What inspired that? Did you guys did your creators come to you guys and say, hey guys, like please do this for us because we you know.
Yeah, I think with Sound.com specifically, I think there was an opportunity to build on that sound legacy that you speak about. But I think
Yeah.
maybe the best example of like sound kits that we have that is just the most successful thing for us is machine expansions. They're actually called expansions now because they are not specific to machine anymore. You know, when you buy them, you get Ableton kits, you get battery kits, you get
Yeah.
a presets for synthesizers, and I think one of the things that we are really good at, I think, and that's also where the company comes from in terms of legacy, is making amazing sound available. And it's less about maybe the sheer quantity of sounds that you can have, but it's about a curated experience that you can have, and you think, wow, I can imagine how this will fit into my production workflow. And that's why the expansion products are so successful for us. And we've recently started to work with creators more. So we did an expansion with Khalil at the beginning of the year.
Oh
That
man,
was 3 years in the works. So you just see like the quality of that. It's rather like
that guy is an alien.
yeah, it's insane.
That guy's an alien. He's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And that's where like I think we as a company want to really focus on is like this legacy of sound that we have. The company claim has been for 24 years the future of sound. So we want to try to live up to that as much as we can.
That's dope, man. That's dope. Yeah, exciting stuff, man. I bet you're.
Yeah.
Are you just as pumped up now, like with the way things are changing and just like moving? Because things are becoming a thing out of everywhere now. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yes.
big songs are being created on TikTok, and just everything.
Yeah.
Everything is like there's
I mean,
no prediction. Like what's gonna happen? Like where is this gonna come from next?
I mean, let me also say this, Abe. I mean, like when you shared, I think the story of BeatStars, maybe 1 year, 2 years ago with Young Keo's beat and that story that really I think cemented BeatStars as that kind of place, and for that story, right, that you say anything can blow up from anywhere kind of thing that you mentioned, and things are changing rapidly. It was just a great moment for me to watch you also like have that success with the platform, because it was such a proof point. And I know there were many proof points before, but it was just such a prominent one. So super dope, man. I'm super happy for you.
Appreciate you, man, for sure. Yeah, man. That I get. We were screaming and yelling for too long. We needed proof in the pudding.
Yeah, totally.
No, it's great, man. But listen, man, I know we got a few more minutes left here, but just one last question before we take a couple questions in the chat. I know it's crazy times right now, right? And a lot of probably your guys' day-to-day work is not just like talking about products and like how we're going to market products. It's more about like, dude, what are we going to do for our community? Like this COVID shit is crazy. This all the racial injustices that's going on is crazy. Like, what are we going to do? Like, so I'm sure you and your team are strategizing and making sure that you guys can do whatever you can to help support folks that are in the creator community suffering with COVID or just the effects of it. And so what you guys just launched something recently that with some big names, some huge names. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So we recently launched essentially a sample pack called Community Drive. That's kind of like a mini expansion. So it has battery kits, it has Ableton kits, has Logic kits in there, as well as a lot of presets. And we were able, together with our artist relation team, to work with a lot of amazing producers and creators. So we have people like Just Blaze contributing, the Take a Day Trip guys contribute some sounds, DJ Dahi. Did Sia actually gave us some of her vocals, which is something that producers are always looking for, which was amazing. We have Lil Michaela, the kind of AI character as well, plus a lot of electronic producers like Richard Devine, BT, and others in there. So we're extremely grateful, I think, for them contributing to this. And the response from the community has also been amazing. We initially pledged ourselves 100,000 euros that is split across 7 different charities that are helping musicians in this time in different areas of the world. And we've raised an additional, I think, 45,000 euros. We're hoping to get to 50, so we can contribute 150K. And I think one of the learnings for us is that this is something that doesn't need to happen once only. We can continue this maybe with more local editions. Maybe we can find some partners. We've had people reach out to us from all other music tech companies as well. So it's been a really, really great moment. And I think it's something that I'm grateful for the leadership of the company too, that very early was like, what can we do, right? And then and my team kind of came back with some some ideas of what we could be doing. And I think in week 2 of the lockdown, at late March, we also gave away one of our products, Analog Dreams, which hundreds of thousands of people downloaded, and we're grateful to get as well one of our synthesizer products. And I think the more interesting stuff, even below the more visible things that we've done, is what we try to do every day in the community. So, we work with a ton of artists and producers, and we've been, much more flexible with giving out software to people in the last couple of months, and just trying to help people out and like continue our relationships with those people. And I think that's been, for me, one of the most amazing things to witness is just, how we've kept on having those relationships and been trying to help people out as much as possible. And there's, just with the news from Lebanon yesterday, which, there's so much stuff happening this year that you're just, so sad for. And I think if we can do a little bit on our part as a music company, that, whatever we can do in terms of helping people in our community during this time, that's what we're trying.
Man, music is therapy for so many people, including myself, dude. You know what I mean? Like, whether we're all, we're going through something mentally, and I'm sure you're for yourself too. Like, I'm sure, like, there's not many of us that know how to process this kind of shit that's going on right now. And I've always found that making music has always eased, is always, provided purpose, and that's really what we need, it's really what we need. So like making that more accessible that you guys did is awesome, man. Because I know everyone's at home creating, doing something, trying to figure it all out. And so that's what really inspired these sessions, Con. Like really, man, just, it's more not about like, oh, promoting BeatStars. No, man, let's take our minds away for a minute, for a couple days, away from everything, and let's try to grow. And I think if we can try to, and we do this on a weekly level. On Mondays and Thursdays, we have the Music Entrepreneur Club sessions, and we feel like, man, if we can get people in the habit of growing a little bit every day, the possibilities change, and your people's situations can change. So. Yeah,
absolutely. Love that you're doing it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So, okay, let's take some questions, guys. Let me go in here and see. Any chance on a machine? Okay, people are asking you for products right now. So
yeah, let's have the questions. Interesting to hear what people say.
They're shooting their shots. Okay, let's see. Some guy's asking about. Do you recommend waiting on it? Let's see. Do you recommend waiting to put out visual content until you have the equipment to put out quality content, or does not matter as long as you're consistent? Shout out to Broken AC Beats.
I love that name, Broken AC Beats. Must be hot where you are with that Broken AC. I think lo-fi content can work well if you're consistent with it and you've got something to say. I don't think everything needs to be extremely polished. I think there's a certain base level that you need to hit, but I think you can do that with whatever equipment you have these days. So I think get your stuff out there. Have a consistent message and build your following. I don't think you need that much equipment to make things look decent. Hope that helps.
Yeah, cool, man. Someone's asking here, that boy Butter, he's like, you see the question.
I see the question, that boy Butter. It's coming.
Is that something the community's waiting on right now?
Yeah, there's I think the Machine community is always super active, and they have very valid feedback on the product and what they want. There's certain features that they're really interested in. So I can say that things are coming fairly soon. Stay tuned, Dead Boy Butter. And thanks for using Machine if you're using it.
Cool. We got Royston Review. Should producers master beats before an artist get on the record?
Good question for you, Abe.
Yeah, this one's for me. If you're sending it out as like the final version, that's the high quality waves or stems that you're sending out to a recording artist, that's possibly going to be the files he's going to record on. No, you definitely do not master those files. You make sure you can put your own mixes on them, but most of the time, of course, artists like to use their own engineer to mix down a beat or mix down vocals. So, but if you're streaming your beats, like for discovery, like on BeatStars or SoundCloud, or you're streaming your stuff on Spotify, of course, you're making sure you're sending out a mastered version. Shout out to Roast and Review. He's going to be on day 3, doing some artist and producer feedback. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see if there's any good one. There's so many questions. Oh, here's one from Facebook, from Talia Glass.
Is there a pack you recommend for artists that do compose the material? I'm not sure I completely understand the question.
So maybe she's a recording artist too, and she also makes her own music. And so is there like a pack that you think is more tailored for like recording artists? Like maybe there's some piano loops or guitar loops.
Yeah, I would need to look a little bit into the catalog. I mean, there's some stuff on sounds.com that we actually did a little campaign with songwriters, like maybe Shiloh was on there last year, I think, where there's some collections on sounds.com that are specific for songwriters and artists to write to. As far as other packs, I think maybe start by downloading the community drive pack that we gave up for free, because there's some cool stuff in there just to get things going, and then look around a little bit more from there.
Cool, man. Cool. Okay, we got a couple more here. Do you see this one from Nova?
Does Machine only work with Machine software? Can the hardware be used with other software? Yeah, you can use Machine. I would say the best experience that you get is if you use it with the software, because it's very integrated, but it has a very sophisticated MIDI mode that you can switch into. It has templates for Ableton. I believe there's a template for FL out there as well. So yeah, you can definitely use it with other software, and lots of people do it and map it to all kinds of crazy shit actually, to use it in different ways.
Awesome, man. Great. Let's see if we have any couple more. Thank you for your time, man. We really appreciate
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
I'm sure the bosses in Berlin are like, "Where's Constantine? He's not on my morning calls."
It's better than having a budget meeting at this time. So
exactly, those are boring, man. Those are boring. Machine, hardware, software paired by all the. Okay, I think that's it, man. That's all we got. Constantine, thank you so much for just let me just do this. But thank you so much, man, for giving us your time, bro. Is there anything that you wanted to touch on? I'm here. If there's anything you wanted to talk about specifically.
I was curious about what kind of the biggest trend is that you see on BeatStars during this time, with COVID happening, with one thing maybe worth sharing, is we're grateful that we've seen an incredible amount of people making music during this time. If we look at like inside our software, sometimes it's 3x the user activity that we've seen pre-COVID. I love the fact that people are using this time, although it's a tough time for everyone to get creative and make stuff. What's been your experience on BeatStars during this?
Yeah, man, we've seen some amazing growth too. It's been crazy and very, very inspiring. I think it for the longest time. We're getting to a point where we're almost, I think in a month or two we're going to announce our $100 million paid out, and what's crazy is almost 60 million of that is going to be paid out this year. Wow. So by the end of the year, it'll be 100 something by the end of the year. And so people are starting, I mean, it with trying to push a product, right? Trying to like get people to use your product. There's always going to be some resistance, right? And traditional producers for the longest time, and just producers that are just peeking in at what we're doing for the longest time as well. We're like, man, this is kind of cool, but I'm not sure if this is something that I want to venture into my career. Like being a music producer, entrepreneur is different than just like being a creator. You know what I mean? It's more than just like, so it's a lot more work actually than just creating beats, creating music. So, there's so many hats our community wears, and so many of our communities just has. I've seen people take their beat selling careers beginning of COVID now to being like replacing their income from their jobs that they've been laid off, right? They've so people are starting to jump in, all in and say, yo, I need something that's virtual. I need a digital business that's going to be possibly recession proof. That's possibly going to be where it's not a brick and mortar. I don't have to rely on going into work and doing all these things. So having a digital business in today's world is pretty crucial, man. And if and honestly, like anyone that's outside of just like making music, like anyone that is going through this, outside of the music makers should be thinking about setting up a digital business, opening up an Amazon store, opening up something on Shopify and selling some merch and stuff. Like, I don't know, like right now is the time to start thinking and planning about building a digital business that you can control, that you can project, you can forecast, that you can build, and and kind of like run the show. And if you ask some of our top creators, man, it's a fun journey, man. It's a fun journey.
Yeah.
It's so freaking rewarding. It's so freaking rewarding. And if all of those who are talented out there, this is that time. And BeatStars is continuing to grow, double, triple every year. And
yeah, that's awesome. No, I think that's also like the thing of like pushing something for a long time, and then you see that success. Like I think it's also a really strong message of not giving up and being really persistent if you really believe in what you're doing. I think one thing that would be maybe a shout out here to the BeatStars community. Our channels at Native are pretty large in terms of music tech. Like we have a pretty big reach in terms of social and newsletters and our blog that we just relaunched. So I'd love to highlight some of the creators from BeatStars that are using our gear and talk about how they made it to inspire others. So
that'd be
if
dope.
anyone out there, hit us up.
That'd be dope. You know what? We'll create an opportunity and have people apply, and we'll send you guys information on all our machine users for sure.
Love it. Let's do it.
Hell yeah, man. Constantine, thank you for your time, brother, and I appreciate the gems and the honesty and just giving back to the community. Hopefully, we'll catch you soon in person, man. Hopefully, we'll catch you soon in person.
Thanks so much for having me. Have a great summit, and thanks everybody for tuning in.